Welcome back, my friend, to a show that never ends. Remember ELP, Emerson, Lake Palmer, and there was somebody else, ELP something. Some other dude joined the band and they added his initial, ELPQ. I don't know. But that was a fine song. That album, Emerson, Lake Palmer, and I don't know. Maybe it was just ELP. Like, 70s-ish, 60s, 70s band. And I can't remember the name of that album, but my God. That was a golden era for rock. For relationships, for sexuality, for adolescent growth, for community, love. Weird time. And I wasn't even around then. I was born in 69. I'm a child of science. Moonshot! I was 1 month old. Oh, good God. Good times. Yeah. They were good times. Shit, even though we had gas crises and the Vietnam War. What are we fighting for? Don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. Napalm sticks to kids. Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't aware for that period. Those were bad times. And Jerry Sorcy, who was in my class, or my brother's class, my brother John's, maybe my class, maybe not Doug's class. His brother's on the wall. He died in Vietnam. And what did you do in Vietnam? Well, I only got one thing to say about my time in Vietnam, Forrest Gump. Johnny! That's an awesome scene, man. Down at the reflecting pool. And the guy unplugs it. And he says a bunch of nonsense, but they don't care, man. And it's got the little political activist, whatever his name was. I can't remember. Wearing the flag shirt. Ah! And he just received the National Medal of Honor for saving all of the troops in his platoon, his squad. He saved Bubba. Sorta. Bubba. Or shrimp scampi, fried shrimp, boiled shrimp, peeled shrimp, shrimp creole. Bubba gone shrimp. Holy crap, man. This has got to stop. I have a few topics I'd like to cover today. And I'm keeping this short. Short! 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I've seen some ongoing stories about mindfulness. And there's always been a general talk of mindfulness. And I even have somewhere on that bookshelf, Paramahansa Yogananda. What is it? Tales of a yoga yogini, yoga master, whatever. My father, we grew up with my father telling us about Rabindranath Tagore and Paramahansa Yogananda. And, one of the greatest yogis in history. And mysticism, and then the weird trials of the Far Eastern yogis and what they did or they didn't do and how they were quantified. And I'm not being controversial or disrespectful. It sort of reminds me of a pseudo real world Lord of the Rings. And not the entire book, but when J.R.R. Tolkien, when he just, and I don't know which book or if it's one of the ancillary installments, if it's one of his books about the genealogy, I don't know. He does in-depth discussion of like the elves and all the gene lines and how the elves split out and how some are perfumed and some grow fur and some have elf features or elf-like features, pointy, whatever, and some have humanoid features and all that shit. But it reminded me of the mysticism of the yogis, the Far East, the Indian mystics. And how they enchanted this country in the early 1900s, the 20th century, early 20th century. He came over, he was a hit, good speaker, traveled around here, lived here, had visions. Really weird. And I mean, you've got centuries, you've got millennia of history from those people. Religious books, entire movements, entire societies and generations that followed them. And Far Eastern, both Indian and Asian culture, mysticism, religion have always had a different spin, which has been the reason why factions of the US or Western civilization have embraced it, regarding, mysticism and your chakras and your spirit and your body and your mind and your soul and mindfulness and meditation and breathing and all the crap that we never experienced in Christianity, right? Which not old, it's old. Gregorian chants and churches, synagogues, there's mysticism abound in the Middle East, in Europe, here in the US. Not as deep in the US, but for our religions, right? And then it gets weird and queered. Again, not to be controversial, but it is. The Latter-day Saints, dude, and John Smith, and polygamy, and freedoms, Scientology, fuck, L. Ron Hubbard, John Travolta, and Leah Remini, King of Queens. She's just reignited her career, smashing David Miscavige and that wacky cult. Religion, cult. And quasi-related to, LDS. They buy up properties. Or Christianity. Fuck, the biggest, richest institution at multiple times in history on the globe was a religious institution. Fuck me. Look at Rome. Look at the Vatican. And you had the monks who were the only educated. They brewed beer. They advanced science, horticulture, and biology, and zoology, and all that shit. And weird reason, whatever. You got sexuality or, celibacy comes into play. But when you're in a location for an extended period of time and you either pursue your personal relationship with a deity or deities that aren't there, interact with the community of very like-minded individuals, you have to have outlets. And those guys were scientists, carpenters, masons, artists. They were, biologists, zoologists. Every facet of knowledge and investigation they pursued. It was a petri dish for brilliance, right? And it was pretty big in a weird, fucked up way. Religion, man. Eeks. And the mystics are no different, right? The Indian or the Asian mystics. And mindfulness always was at the center of that, regardless of whatever the end state was. If you achieved nirvana, if you achieved afterlife, if you achieved heaven, if you achieved enlightenment, if you achieved whatever, and then those stages. Scientology, there's fucking stages that you pay for. You pay for tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to reach a new stage. And now you've got this classification. It's almost like the military. You get this I don't know if you get insignia, whatever. They give you new books. Oh, cults, man. I'll meet you out at Heaven's Gate. But it seems like the Far Eastern mythologies, mysticisms were a little different. They weren't rooted in power and in advantage, though they probably were. It's human. And they often took you inner. It was an inner investigation into yourself, which many religions didn't do. You had to have faith in some outer, something external. And that's why I thought, I'm always drawn to it. It's pretty interesting, but it's clearly mystic. And clearly there's faith, the vanishing yogi, or the hovering yogi, or all these weird skills and traits that they had, and then the stories, the folklore that spread up around it. But all that crap aside, there's practices in there, and I recall watching That's Incredible, and one of the yogis from, Mumbai, Bangalore, Delhi, whatever, walked into that studio. Da-na-na-na-na. Remember that? I think Fred Tarkenton, was he on it? And the good-looking dude, and then Kathy Gifford, Kathy Crosby, the blonde, not the morning show chick, whatever, I don't remember. In the 70s, and the dude walks in the studio, maybe the 80s, and it's a 1x1 plexiglass box. And sure as shit, if that a 6-foot dude doesn't bend his body into that box, then control his heart rate so that he's barely breathing, and they seal the box and he sits in the box, folded up in a square. We've all seen this for the duration of the fucking show. And it took him 15 minutes to get in. It takes him 5 minutes to get out. He's a bit more able. But he comes out of his trance, his meditation, and then exits the box. And you're like, what? Dude, you see shit like that? That's not magic trick. That's not mirrors and smoke and, trickery. That is mental acuity training and practice with controls over your body, and it's been proven. The serious mystics over there, the serious yogis, the yoga practices themselves, the tantric yoga, whatever they are, the hot yoga, all of your positions, your downward dog, all of the things that you pursue, and with the increasing difficulty, and then how that ties to your chakras, and and then if you tie chanting into it, the word usage, just like the monks, the Tibetan monks, all that shit, there's all intermingled components. There's something that's said to that. There's something that's gained from that. There's palpable, measurable feats that have occurred, that can occur. Mind over body, right? And we're now seeing in the United States an increased pursuit of mindfulness, of meditation. And we've never seen that really. And it was low. It was less than 5% for decades. Nobody does that shit. I don't have fucking time to meditate. And now there's this new app that's really blown up. Governments are using it. They're paid for. School systems. Anybody that's got a high energy, high action, high stress, multiple distractive managing components. This Headspace app on your phone, it's iOS based, I think, but you can get it, it's Android too, and there's 20, 30, 40, 50 million downloads. This thing's huge. And you can meditate for 5 minutes. Teachers are doing it in classrooms. People are doing it in government offices, in military bases. It's gained popularity. And I think overall meditation has increased in the U.S., in upwards of double digits as some kind of measured percentage. And I don't know who measured it and how they captured that. I meditate as much as I can. As soon as I get up in the morning, right? 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever. I've got Sleep Space or Sleep Stream, and it's an iOS app, and it's gone. I bought this a decade ago, maybe 10 years ago, maybe, and it's not even supported on iOS anymore. Sleep Stream 2, and it's got the yin and the yang, right, ish, but it's an incredible app. This one was the paid for. I think it was $9.99. After I bought I downloaded the free version, which had portions of this, and I found it so valuable. But it's got so much good stuff in this thing. Different type meditation. I do the guided meditation. It's a 20-minute. As soon as I get up, there's one for mornings. There's one. It gives you beta waves, brain waves that you can put in here with differing. What they think the brain wavelengths can affect focus, depression, fatigue, anxiety, mindfulness, energy, right? Whatever. So it's got all these things. And then it's got a bunch of auto noise. So it's got a component where you can hear or not hear a speaking meditation line, audio line. You can then have your mind waves, your beta waves, your brain waves, and then you have sound. So it can have outdoor or nature sounds or campfires or waves or wind or anything. And I do an auto blend. It uses all of these different types that you can then, it'll pick pieces of them. And this thing's incredible. I do this almost every morning. And I control the volume, and I set this near my head. You can do it at night for sleep. You can do it as an alarm to wake up. You can't purchase it anymore, Sleep Stream 2. It's not out in iOS. I don't even know if it's supported anymore. This thing's an extensive app. It was $10 10 years ago. I found it invaluable. And while my form of meditation for me, on good days, I can lay down in dark with that playing at the top of my head, stretch my arms out, take a couple deep breaths, and then immediately start to disappear. Most days I go in and there's thoughts, there's the activity that's in my brain, there's things that I know I'm going to have to do for work that day, for home that day, with the kids that day, with my family, for the dog, for myself, for this fucking podcast, whatever. If I feel good, I go into those immediate thought lines. And then often, the entire session goes through those thoughts. And it gives me clarity. I can make decisions. I understand what's going on. I hear things. I make palpable, very succinct thoughts. And I don't need to write them down. I can usually remember them. It's not that type of detail. It's higher level generalities. And on other days, I actually, with my eyes closed, can see all of the visual patterns that you often experience when you close your eyes. And even when you put pressure on it, you see all the spots that move around. It's almost pseudo-psychedelic. If you haven't experienced that, that's what I see. I don't have a mind's eye. I can't see in my head. I don't close my eyes and see pictures for the most part, especially when I'm awake or aware. But when I'm meditating, I can see those patterns and those activities, and it takes me down. And if I'm purposeful, if I'm mindful, I can focus on my breathing and I can almost disappear. My fingers, my feet, I stop feeling them. I don't feel contact on the concrete or on the carpet wherever I'm laying. I always lay down with that above my head. And then I go into this 20-minute and I focus. The speak line on that, the talk line, the audio, I don't even hear it anymore. I have it fully memorized. There's about 5 different tracks that they can run that have different pattern, that have different talk lines. It's the same person. You can see where they snippet it in, different audio when they change the tracks. I have them all memorized. So it doesn't trigger any type of synapse or firing in my mind. It's almost like white noise. I've listened to this thing thousands of times. And it's pretty powerful. I feel invigorated. I feel energized when I come out of this thing and there's a talk down. There's like a 2-minute period that they talk you back to consciousness. Pseudo-hypnotic, like, that's the format of this thing. I feel my body coming back. I can stretch. I feel the energy coming back. There's restfulness. I feel rested. I feel like I'm waking up a second time often. At the end of it, I often tie in 2, 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes of stretches. I stretch my back. I stretch the things that bother me, that I know are going to bother me during the day. I've got a quad issue. I stretch my lower right hand back. Got a back issue, things that I've hurt, whatever. And powerful. And then I've got a clear head, and I've got actual progressive pieces that I know I'm going to address during the day. And that's one aspect. You can then leave that, sit down and begin to write, and you can write down in detail whatever those pieces were. Inside some type of project, program, timeline, whatever you want. And on rare occasions, I've done that. Here's the other side of it. On some occasions, I walk in there and I'm sick, or I don't feel good, or I've got a problem swallowing because maybe I had milk earlier or something. So something in me is a focal point, because it's not as if I just feel really good and I'm going to meditate. And I will focus on that, and it won't be a good meditation session. And now, I've done this so many times, I know that. I still lay there. I still think I go through the same processes that I can. It's not as restful. It's not as fitful. It's not the same experience. But I go through the same processes. And then tomorrow I do it and it's better, or maybe it's the same, and maybe I have a couple days where I have bad or non-optimal meditation pieces, but meditation sessions, but powerful, man. And if you don't do it and you've never tried it, and there's so many different methodologies that can make your head spin. Like I said, this Headspace is on the phone, and I'm not going to download it. I haven't downloaded it. I've seen it everywhere. I've heard the guy's voice that does the talking on it. This fucking phone. I got the Galaxy S5. This thing's such a disappointment. I think I got to reset it. It's taking like a minute or two for, here we go. For texts, to bring texts up and stuff, but that's Headspace. And it's meditation and mindfulness. And it goes through the same things for the same type of functionality as that thing. The cool part about Headspace is it's modern. So you can do a 1, 2, 3, 5 minute meditation, which they used to frown upon. No, you can't. You can't even settle in that. Yep, they're saying yes, you can. Just like a cat nap. You can take a 10-minute or a 15-minute cat nap. Your body will shut down. You may not have, you're changing your brain waves to your deep waves, but it still resets certain systems at certain levels in your body. Man, has it been valuable to me. I encourage anyone to try it, and not just try it once or twice. Prove to yourself that it doesn't work. Pick one of the simple meditation formats, not complex where you have to chant or you've got to sit a certain way with your hands in the lotus position. Fuck me. Dude, you can do meditation wherever you're comfortable. And it's weird. It's not sleep. You're not going into slumber. You're not going into total shutdown. You're going into relaxation. Like Jackie Chan said to little Will Smith's kid. Remember in Karate Kid? He said, yeah, she's doing nothing. And he said, no, there's a difference between being quiet, being peaceful, and doing nothing, right? Because the chick was doing the mirror with the snake or whatever, and I don't remember the exact quote, but he goes, whoa, dude, there's a big difference. You're not trying to go to sleep, you're not trying to shut your brain down, you're just trying to quiet and focus inside, inward. And it's a different type of invigoration. It's a different type of body reset. Just like you turn off the PC, flushes the cache, resets the fucking CPU, turns off the fan, all the little processes that are running, all your wired shit on your board, even if they got capacitors, they reset. Which is why I've always turned off my shit for more than a minute or a few minutes. Tried to even let it cool down. Some of your metals cool down, they'll expand again or contract or whatever. Yeah, it's powerful. Anyone that's in a busy lifestyle with kids or whatever, and it's an excuse, and we all know that. I can't find time. We can all find 20 minutes a day. Anyone. You can find 20 minutes a day. It's finding it, knowing that that's your 20 minutes, and then immediately utilizing it. That's where our indecisiveness, our flippant attitudes, that's where it fails. But you've got to find that 20 minutes. Beginning of the day, middle of the day, end of the day, whatever, and then meditate. You can meditate right before bed. You can meditate early in the morning. You can meditate for a reset in the middle of the day. You can meditate in your office. You can turn the lights off, sit in your executive high back. Anything. They have the wellness rooms at every major employment environment now around the globe. The lactation rooms, the wellness rooms, the quiet rooms, whatever you want to call them. There is so much value gained from this, and it's not Western belief, and it's sad. And I don't know why we haven't integrated that more. But I'm telling you, it is a powerful tool. It resets the hormones. It resets my attitude. It gives me clarity of thought. It gives me peace. It gives me initiative. It gives me motivation. Action lists, action plans. I found everything in that. And then I found nothing. It settles my head. It clears my head. And there's no singular experience. It's not like, hey, what happens to you when you meditate? I meditate. That's what happens. I've learned to do this now in a dark place. I need dark. I need no light. Light for me is a very strong trigger. And I think for most humans, right, the light stimulates on our skin, healthy productions of vitamins and stuff through our retina, right, through our eyeballs. Even when you got them closed and there's still light outside, I don't work well with that. That's too much stimulus for me. So I need a dark room. But I can lay on concrete. I've done it in my garage. I've done it in my closet. I can lay anywhere. I do well laying down. I don't do it as well sitting, especially in a lotus position or otherwise, or with my back against a wall or in a chair, though I've done it in all those. I'm optimal laying down. For a number of years, I found sensory deprivation tanks, salt tanks. Rogan talked about it back decades ago. I did this, and throughout my life, my adult life, I've sought these out, and on occasion I attend them. They're extremely expensive, 50, 40, 50, 60 bucks an hour to go into this, tank where you close off light and sound. There is 1,000, 2,000 pounds, 1,000 pounds of Epsom salts in 8, 10, 12 inches of water. Super saturated, super saline, like Dead Sea type stuff, where it's pungent, you can smell it, you can taste it. It has saturated the entire environment when you close the capsule. To some people, it's the verge of irritant, right, for your eyes or whatever. You can't touch your eyes with that stuff. It gets stingy. The Epsom salt makes the water slippery, almost like limey, salty. Very, very strong. Because of that, you're buoyant. The water temperature is controlled by a thermostat. It's exactly your body temperature, 98.6. So when you get in that thing, and I'm telling you, it works for me. There is a removal from consciousness while you're conscious. When you have no sense, sight, smell, sound, touch, taste, when none of those are being triggered, the only thing that then has input is your brain. Your brain, you can train. It will be active. For many people, it's brutally active. But when you remove that sensory input, now you can focus on the brain. You can shut things down. You can shut it off. You can focus on parts. You can do anything you want. I found the sensory deprivation tank. Remember, it was Kurt Russell, was it? Jeff Bridges in the 1970s. What was that damn movie? They put him in the tank, and the Animal Instinct. What the hell was it? Good movie. Weird thoughts. Not like that at all. There's no religious experience, at least for me. For me, there's peace, there's quiet. When I go in the tank, just like when I meditate here, I've learned not to do it in the tank. I don't even need the fucking tank anymore. Which is why I do it almost every day. And it's powerful. So I would encourage you to try mindfulness and meditation. The values are immense for me. And it's not like, I got a new car. Look at the value of that. It's a brand new car and it smells good. That's not mindfulness. That's not meditation. Don't do it for a month. See how you feel. See how you're emotional, psychological, social, mental, physical, mental. Your biological states are. And then meditate for a month or a quarter and see how things work. Night and day, man. And it's not placebo. I don't know who came up with fucking placebo. Because just because I'm not medicating doesn't mean that I'm not having a physiological, a biological effect on my body, which is what those yogis did. They controlled through their mind, their breathing, their body systems without medication. The power of the mind, your hippocampus, anything in your fucking cranium. They went to the engine, the heart. They could slow down their breathing, slow down their heartbeat. Those are profound. That's not a placebo effect, It has real effects on your well-being, on your system functionality. And I've seen that, I've experienced it, and I've been doing it for a long, long time. I think as long as I've taken a 81 milligram aspirin, 15 years. I'm 49, I've been doing it since I'm 30, 35. Powerful. I encourage you, I implore you, download Headspace, try it out. Do it small, do 2, 3, 5 minute increments. Do it for a week, don't stop. Give it a real shot and then stop. Some people hate yoga. Some people hate meditation. There's value in it. And for those people that struggle and really dislike it, I bet you there's greater value in it. If they master it, it will give them another tool in their utility kit to actually manage the madness in their brain to a level where I bet you it's another world. It's optimized. They can control the voices. They can control the chaos. Yeah, I would wildly encourage you to give it a shot if you don't do it now. If you have a baby at home, if you're young and you're in college, if you're in athletics, if you're extremely active and busy with your relationship, if you have boyfriends, girlfriends, multiples. I think it starts to get blurred if you are a drug user, a drug abuser, an alcohol user, an alcohol abuser. There's talk of individuals that would meditate on drugs. Those are different experiences. I can't speak to those. I don't do it. Rogan would smoke a ton of weed or eat a ton of edibles before he goes into the float tank. He's got his own float tank. He's had it for 20 years. I would have loved to have gotten my own float tank. Could never afford it. They're relatively expensive. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 bucks, right? And they take up space and all that shit. and there's maintenance and care for those. Would be great to have. Yeah, never in my price range, never in my income bracket, but doesn't matter. I've never felt compelled to have some type of psychedelic experience, and you don't need to. But powerful, really, really powerful. So I implore you, I encourage you, give mindfulness meditation a shot. It has value. This went long, I apologize, but out for this session on meditation. And I could probably do a ton more. I'll cut it here. Out.